Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 64 of Generation GC. My name's Molly Hudelson, once again, and as always, I'm your host, as well as the producer, creator, and editor of this show. Today we're talking about 40 Ounce Dream from Youth Authority, Good Charlotte's sixth album released in 2016, and my guest is Dave Gomez of Summer Curse. Last week, on our last regular episode, we talked about Last Night from Cardiology. A few days ago, we had a bonus episode where I shared the story of how I got to interview Good Charlotte's Billy Martin. Next week, on our next regular episode, we'll be talking about a song from Generation RX. Dave Gomez is both a musician and a diehard music fan from Chicago. His current project is called Summer Curse, but he's been playing in bands and has been involved in the pop-punk scene in and around Chicago for a long time. I had a lot of fun hearing his stories of growing up in the scene, and honestly, Chicago is still giving us a ton of great bands, which is rad. And I think y'all are really just going to enjoy hearing everything Dave has to say. We also mentioned the Dave Gomez benefit compilation, which I will link in the show notes. Till Morning, a past Generation GC guest, remember they talked about the Click. They are on the compilation. There's a band called No Fences that are covering The River. There's a Sugar Cult cover, a Jimmy Eat World cover, lots of songs that y'all probably know and love. I also want to say that I love having guests from all around the world and from all different backgrounds on Generation GC. If English isn't your first language, that's okay. As long as you're comfortable holding a conversation in English, you're good to go. And just a heads up that different backgrounds, that doesn't just mean location or ethnicity. I want to ensure a very gender and sexuality representation. I want to make sure I'm representing fans of different ages, fans with any unique life experiences of any sort. I want every single person who listens to Generation GC to feel like they are represented in some way. And if you're listening, you're like, I don't know if there's been anyone like me on the show yet. Hey, reach out and you can come on the show. I'm always open for guests. I also want to continue mentioning blacklivesmatters.card.co, antisemitism.card.co, and anti-Asian-violence-resources.card.co. There's still an incredible amount of hate crime going on in the U.S., as well as racism on every kind of micro level. Microaggressions are happening, and that's, completely not okay. In terms of timely news, as you, I'm sure, have seen, Derek Chauvin was convicted. He was found guilty of second-degree unintentional murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter of George Floyd. And that's good. That's good. He should have been convicted. But I want to remind everyone that George Floyd did not sacrifice his life for any cause. He was not a willing martyr for the cause. And Chauvin being convicted is not a victory. Victory is when we don't have 988 people killed by police in a year. And yes, that is up a little bit from the last time I mentioned this. I just checked the Washington Post database, and it has gone up. Victory is when that number is 0. Finally, on a positive note, Generation GC stickers are here. If you do want a sticker, there's 2 things you can do. Number 1, you can support the show on Anchor. Go to anchor.fm/generationgcpod and click support. And that's going to help me keep the show going. That helps me get things I need for the show itself, whether that's microphone cables, a laptop stand, headphones. It helps me do things like print stickers and make custom mugs to give away. Number 2, this week I'm going to ask y'all to pick up the Dave Gomez benefit compilation. Dave Gomez benefit comp.bandcamp.com. It'll be linked in the show notes. Can really help out our pal Dave, and you'll get some great music too. So you're going to do either of those. You're going to send me a screenshot of either your support of the show on Anchor or that you've picked up the Dave Gomez benefit comp, and that you'll send me your mailing address, and I will send you stickers. You can reach me at generationgcpod@gmail.com or generationgcpod, P-O-D, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Well, that's about it for our intro. Thank you all for tuning in, and now on to episode 64.
So 40 Ounce Dream is track 3 on Youth Authority, Good Charlotte's 6th album, which was also their comeback album after hiatus, came out in 2016. Track 2 was Makeshift Love. Track 4 is Life Can't Get Much Better. So they really, and I think the first track is Life Changes, so it was really like single.
Fantastic.
So it was the second single from the album, released in May 2016 in advance of the album's July release. And the song first premiered on Beats One. They did an interview with Zane Lowe, which is an awesome look. And there is both a lyric video and a music video for this song, which I am so excited to talk about both because they are both so good. They're so good. And this song has been played live, but only a couple of times. And it kind of looks like a handful of shows in 2016, like mostly before the album came out, per setlist.fm. So I don't know. I guess I could kind of see that. Like, I don't know. It's kind of it's not like as high energy as some of the other songs from this album that they might have played live. So I could see why it might not have gotten played live that much. And just a fun note, there was an interview with Val's Vanity where both Billy and Dean said that 40 Ounce Dream and War were tied for their favorite song from this album. So,
two very different too.
I know. It's like the kind of silly, sarcastic song and like the hardest and most emotional, introspective song on the album. Yeah. Right, like the two extremes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, we have a lot to talk about with this song, but I really want to help our guests get to know you.
Okay, rad. Yeah,
so, first question I like to ask everyone is, when did you first hear Good Charlotte, and what were your first thoughts on them?
Okay, so with Good Charlotte, for me, they were kind of like always there. Like a big part of my childhood. I definitely remember buying their first record at Target. And I do remember seeing the Little Things video, like, you know, how they have like the TVs at Target and such. And that's how, that's a big memory of mine. And I remember like when I first heard of them, I'm like, this is my band. Like everything about them, like their fashion sense, like I just could relate to them on every level. And they had a total like underdog vibe, which I totally dug.
Yes.
And being so young, you feel like, and like knowing it's their first record, you feel like you want to like root for them, like along their journey in a sense. So that's why I said like this is my band. Like I feel like nobody knows about this band. And yeah,
I like that you point out the underdog vibe, because that's, I think, something a lot of people that have been on this show and definitely myself can relate to, although I think you're the first person that's really used like that kind of phrasing. And it's true, and it's definitely something that carried through from the first album. I mean, honestly, to this album, there's definitely like some kind of underdog themes on this album for sure. I also really like to ask everyone, have you ever seen Good Charlotte live?
Yes, I have. I've been lucky enough to see them like 4 times.
Incredible.
First time I saw them, I actually didn't see them until I'm 30, but I've only seen them at the Metro in Chicago when I was 16. The Pink Spiders opened up, and it was rad because like
I remember that tour.
Yeah, it was a rad tour. Even at 16, I was already playing in bands and such, and I actually like a week before I played with the Pink Spiders, so I felt super cool. I was like, I know these guys, and they're gonna blow up. Unfortunately, they didn't.
Yeah,
but that record still holds up, and I think they still put out music. So everybody listening, definitely check out their new tunes if you're a Pink Spiders fan as well. But I saw them the year after with Sum 41, 2007, and then I saw them again at Warped Tour. And 2018 with Sleeping with Sirens.
Sick. Yeah, that was a good tour.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, I really want to talk about your music. So I understand you've been in the music scene for a long time, but currently what you're doing is you're making music as Summer Curse. So you have 2 songs on Spotify now, Melanie and Island Wasting Away. So I guess my first question is Summer Curse, like, is that just you or is that a band?
Currently it's me and my buddy Richard. We're currently looking for a drummer. And you know, with the pandemic and everything, we've been kind of like waiting a little bit to like even try out a drummer, and just trying to be safe about it and such still. But when things are back to normal, quotes, we can start practicing and start playing shows and I do have friends that are willing to help out and such, to fill in and such, but we'll figure that out as it comes. But yeah, to give it some context, I've been playing pop punk, like the style of music, since like 2004, and that's like a long time. It's crazy, but I love the genre, and I've never really strayed away from that genre too much. I mean, I definitely have other influences, and I feel like I have my own spin on the tunes, especially the new songs that are coming out. But yeah, we ran into the issues of like having to change the band name several times, and I had some success in my last band, and we had the opportunity to play with Mest, who I know you talked about on the show before.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're a fan, which is rad, and we became friends with their manager, and he's like, dudes, I love the music, but you guys have to change the band name. I can't find you anywhere on the internet. I can't find you on Spotify. I can't find you.
What was the previous band name?
Night Terrors. It's like a video game, I guess. Like an app.
Okay.
And there's another band called Night Terrors, and we just ran into a ton of issues. So like, what I'm doing is kind of like re-releasing some of the old tunes, and under the new name, and like,
sure, yeah,
my songs anyway. So like, I might as well and I'm still part of the song, so I might as well continue and celebrate the past and move on, with some new material as well. So yeah.
Well, I love that you mentioned Mest. So I guess I mean you kind of answered this question because you mentioned going to the Metro in Chicago when you were like 16 or whatever. You're in Chicago area now. You had told me, I think your initial email, you said that like you found the podcast through Till Morning, and you also mentioned Kyle from Makeout. So it seems like you're pretty involved, and you just kind of know a whole lot of people in the Chicago scene. So, how has that scene like changed over the years, do you feel?
How's it changed? Well, it kind of goes in waves.
Sure.
We have back in the day we had a ton of venues, and over time like those venues like shut down and some reopen, and a lot of it has to do with like getting from my understanding, it has a lot to do with like getting like alcohol permits and stuff like that. And why some of these like local venues like shut down, and it's rough. But yeah, and obviously like genres and the popularity of the genres like come and go, so it piques people's interest, and then people go away, and then people get older, and then they don't want to go to shows as much anymore. But I feel like there's always a scene. There's always been a scene. If you wanna be there and be involved, it's there.
Yeah, I love that, and I have to mention that I had put this in my notes that your voice, and it's like your voice in combination, especially with like, I think it's the drum fills that really stick out to me from at least what's on Spotify, reminds me a lot of Tony from Mest.
Yeah, you nailed it. And you nailed it. You totally nailed it. I actually grew up down the block from Tony Lovato, so they're like really like ingrained, and like they're like really a huge introduction to like this genre for me. So like,
especially being local,
yeah, like it's kind of like that's how I learned how to sing and stuff, like singing along to those records and stuff. So it's like,
I will say you're not quite as like Tony's voice. It's very nasally, kind of like a lot of older Tom DeLonge, which is not a bad thing. And I will say you're not quite as like extremely nasally as he is, but I can definitely hear the influence.
Right on. I try to throw some Alkaline Trio influence in there as well. So
okay.
Yeah.
See, I'm honestly not that familiar with Alkaline Trio's music, so I'm like not picking up on that, just because I don't know the original. But
overall, you want to sound like yourself, and I feel like as more songs get released, I think I feel like this new material that's coming out in the next year or so is definitely stuff I'm most proud of. So.
Amazing. So do you have like, I don't know what you're wanting to share, but are you, is it going to be like singles, like separate singles, or are you moving towards like an EP release or something?
I think we're going to go the single route. I really want to put out because I feel like I've been doing music so long, and like I want something like people can hold on to, and like I feel like that's kind of like set me back in a lot of ways throughout me doing this music thing. It's like people know that people like in this area at least like know the name and stuff, and they know I'm involved with music, and I feel like there's no like reference point or something like they can really fall in love with. So I really want to put out an EP or an album eventually, but we'll get
when
there.
the time's right. Yeah. Well, something I also wanted to talk about is that I've tweeted this a few times, so listeners, if you're like, hey, wait, that name Dave Gomez sounds familiar, this is him, this is the guy. So some friends of yours, it seems, got together to make this benefit compilation in your honor, which has, I pre-ordered it, so by the time this podcast is out, I will have listened to the whole thing, but I pre-ordered it, and it is a whole bunch of great bands. It seems like, I would guess, is it a lot of Chicago bands on there?
Yeah. To be honest, how that came about, like, it was actually like a surprise from me. Like,
oh wow!
From my buddy, his name's Larry. He plays in a band called Get By. They're from like, north side Indiana.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know exactly what part of Indiana, to be honest, but I have a connection with his drummer. I grew up with him. He actually grew up right across the street from me. And
wow.
Yeah, so it's pretty gnarly. We actually reconnected like 5 years ago. And we were friends when we were like 12. So it's like,
wow.
Facebook, and he's like, dude, are you Dave Gomez from like the Dave Gomez from this Blue Island area? I'm like, holy crap, dude. Like, it's been like how long? Whatever that was. 20 years at the time.
Incredible.
But yeah, he put this together for me. Such a rare thing of him to do. And actually, to be honest, like, I don't even know some of the artists that are on there. So, and he told me he threw it together in like the span of like an hour or two, and he told me like every band was down to like record a song and be a part of this. So I'm honored. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that. For all the, obvious bad of social media, it has been such a cool tool to allow people to reconnect like that. So Get By, that's the one that's covering Cadillac by Mest on here, it looks like.
Yeah. And I know some of the bands. I know. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, I also had to point out that Till Morning is on here. They came on the show to do the Click, and Devin and Patrick actually played the Click acoustic, which was like one of the coolest things I've ever heard. And Till Morning is covering The Middle by Jimmy Eat World. I mean, there's an MXPX cover, Blink, Starting Line, and then No Fences is covering The River by Good Charlotte. So very excited to hear that.
Yeah, me too. I'm gonna hear it like everybody else is. So like, I'm just as excited. I don't know that band. I don't know of them. But I'm stoked to hear more about them, and I hear their version. I've heard snippets. I heard like the Blink cover, but I think I've only heard one song in full. So I'm really, really, really pumped on that.
Yeah, it's a great track listing. I mean, it's all songs that, probably I think anyone listening to this will know probably a lot, if not even all of these songs. So I definitely am going to encourage everyone to pick this up. I think that's a great cause, and you get some great music too.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for buying it. That's so
oh my
rad.
God, of course. Yeah.
That's so rad.
Yeah, I'm so excited to hear it. I'm so excited. Well, Dave, I want to get into 40 Ounce Dream. So we connected, I think it was like last September, and you told me that you wanted to come on the show to talk about 40 Ounce Dream. So why did you want to talk about this song in particular? You sent me an email. You were like, I want to talk about 40 Ounce Dream. And I was like, hell yes, let's talk about 40 Ounce Dream.
Well, first of all, how does it usually come about? I know it's probably different because how many episodes in now?
This is going to be 64.
64. Holy crap. Well, congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So I know like sometimes, I'm sure sometimes you provide the song
it's different, like the most recent episode that went live on Stray Dogs with Isabella Aruda. She had like, I had connected with her. She just listened to the show and loved it. like last May. I think she messaged me on Instagram, and I just saw that like she posted Stray Dogs to her Instagram story, and I was like, I've been kind of wanting to have this girl on the show, and nobody else has mentioned this song, so why not?
Yeah.
And in some cases, it's like I reach out to people and I'm like, hey, what song do you want to talk about? And maybe they mention like one specific song. Maybe they give me a list of like 5.
Okay.
So it's all different.
At this point, there's so many songs to choose from, and I feel like if you're just a GC fan, you want to talk about all of them, and they all kind of connect, and you know what I mean? Like, they have a lot of diehards. Their fans are insane. Like, seeing them live, and like, you can really see that it's like a real community, I guess,
Yes.
But I wanted to talk about 40 Ounce Stream, to be honest, just because like the first time I heard it, like, well, first of all, I just wanted to shine a light on how much of a banger the song is. And it was a single, and I just don't think it gets talked about enough. So, and also the hip hop references I love. So that's why I chose this song.
Yeah. That is a good point, that despite being a single, it isn't talked about, I feel like, as much.
Yeah.
Because you had like...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying you had like Makeshift Love, which was like the first song back from hiatus. And then it was like Life Changes and Life Can't Get Much Better, which are like so sentimental. Yeah. So I don't know, maybe this just got kind of lost in the mix. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like Youth Authority as a whole kind of mirrors The Young and the Hopeless, which is I would say it's probably their most successful or most like well known.
Yeah.
But they have like, if you think about it, look at like Makeshift Love, like that's kind of like the anthem part 2 in some ways, or as far as like how like rhythmically, like,
yeah, okay,
you know what I mean, like dun, 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 you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's that anthem vibe, and I don't know as far as like how they released the singles from back then, but like think about how this song relates to Boys and Girls. It kind of has a similar vibe, or Girls and Boys. Totally has this like it's kind of like a hip hop thing going on with that song.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, I want to talk about what this song means. So I want to hear what you think it means, and then I'll kind of share what I think it's about, and then we can dive into what the band has said.
Okay.
So what's your interpretation of the lyrics here?
Okay. I think it just shows that they have like a sense of humor about themselves. Yeah. It covers a lot of ground. And kind of like about their career and how they see themselves. Like, I don't know. Overall, I think it's just like a fun song. I don't think, although some of the lyrics are kind of like, I don't know, deep, if you will. Kind of talks about like their past, with like the reference to like 2003 and their popularity in 2003 and how big they were, and then how they see themselves now, or at the time, 2016 was when the song came out. So, but I think it was a great like single as far as like a comeback for the people that missed Makeshift Love, and they called it. Yeah.
I think that's a really good point, that it's about like, I think how they see themselves, right? Because I think there definitely is like nostalgia in this song, but also kind of a, oh shit, we're not kids anymore. Are we still hip? Do we still matter? And you know, they take, there's a line like, all the rappers are singing and rockers DJing, which I think is kind of just a, you know, look, obviously Good Charlotte has always had a lot of hip hop influences. But I guess seeing rappers singing and rockers becoming DJs, like Skrillex being, you know, a prominent example, I think could definitely make them probably wonder, where do they fit in? Because a lot of that started happening, I think, kind of when Good Charlotte was on hiatus, right? And there's also a sense of like, why is everything so clean and safe now? Everything used to be scary and messed up, and now it's like so safe that the cops are snoozing on the job. Yeah.
I think that's another reason this song like resonates with me, because I've definitely had that conversation with my friends. Sure. As far as like going to the Warped Tour and like not that it's like a bad thing or anything. It's just different now. But you see like a lot of cell phones and just like people just filming the concert, and they're just like not as in the moment. And back in the day, my first Warped Tour was 2004, 2005. So it's just way different now. There was like a lot more. It was more focused on punk rock and being rebellious, and just overall just different kind of energy. And I think they're talking about that in a lot of ways. But that's not to say like I'm like a hater of like where music's going or anything like that. I don't want to be like the old guy that's like screw new music. But
right.
But and it's kind of interesting too because they themselves, Good Charlotte, they're now married with kids and stuff like that. So that's another like way to look at it as well. Just and that gives them more of a reason to make fun of the people that are like in the second verse talking about punk rockers that are over 40. No.
Well, they weren't 40 when this song came out, but now they're over 40. Yeah,
they're pushing 40.
I was doing the math in my head. I was like, all right, this came out in 2016. The twins were born in 79, so they were close, but they weren't quite.
Sure. Well, and they knew they were going to be probably still a band.
Yeah.
GC's for life, but
yeah.
But
it's like I feel like now they're able to do things on their own terms that they can be like, all right, we can just keep doing this, and I mean that's my interpretation, my understanding anyway.
Yeah, I just watched the Good Charlotte acoustic. What's it called? It ended up on YouTube. The live stream they did recently.
Yes, the Veeps live stream. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched that and it was interesting because I definitely relate to Joel in a lot of ways when he said that like GC is like it feels good to know that these are like my brothers, and like I always have Good Charlotte. Like like he in a sense like he said he needs them, like he needs to be in this band, and like right there he sold me. I was like, oh my god, okay, that's exactly how I feel. Just from me, playing music since I was 14, and when you start a band that young, it's like. It's kind of you can't quit. You know what I mean? It's kind of part of you.
It's just I feel similarly. I mean, although the way I do it is differently. First it was writing about music, and now it's this podcast. But I've been doing, I guess you could say, music commentary, music journalism for 10 years now. Longer, honestly, if you count, whatever shit I did on my own in high school. But yeah, it's just like, it is just a part of me. It is who I am. And like, maybe people who don't do it don't get it. But like, like I have a full-time job and then I also do this. And like, yeah, it's a lot of hours, it's a lot of time, but like, you need to do it. Like, Absolutely. You need to just have that. It's that expression, and that like, it's just a thing I do.
Yeah. For me, it's like, all it takes is for me, like, well, let's pretend we're in 2019, but all it took for me was to go to a show and then be like, right. I want to be on stage. I want to write a song. I want to do that. It's just like, and I'm sure for you, seeing other people involved in the industry, and it's like, oh my God, I want to be a part of this community and meet people and talk, and all that. So
completely,
I totally relate.
Well, the one line I really want to talk about from this song is actually the title. So what is a 40-ounce dream?
What's a 40-ounce dream? I think it's just, I think they were just trying to paint a picture of like them like partying all night and kind of like their career and life in Good Charlotte like flashed before their eyes.
Oh, okay.
In the blink of, I guess in the blink of an eye, it just like went by so fast, and it's like, who are we now? What's going on? Like this is. So much has changed.
Like that, all of that, like 2003 just passed them by because they were just like partying. Okay. Exactly. That's a little more poetic, I think, than what I had written in my notes, but I really like that. What I wrote in my notes, so I have never been drunk. I have never had a full drink. Like the most I've had is like 2 sips of champagne when I was 18.
Wow, good for you.
Yeah.
In July. I haven't been sober since July, so.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Feels good.
I bet. What I had written down and my, thoughts of like what could be a 40-ounce dream is that maybe it's just like part of getting older is that you can't hold your alcohol anymore. Like you can't just drink when you're pushing 40. You can't drink the way you did when you were 19.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe like, partying turns into like a really bad hangover.
Yeah. I have in my, I put down some notes too.
Yeah.
I respect that. Like you really did your homework. It's insane. Like as I was looking through it, I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like to see.
Thank you.
Thing that you put together for me. But, yeah. So this song kind of bounces as I was reading the lyrics, it kind of bounces, around topics a little bit. Like in the first verse, they're talking about themselves. In the chorus, they're talking about how they, I guess, well, I'm sorry, let me backtrack. So in the first verse, they're talking about, like I said, how they got drunk and their life in Good Charlotte like just went by so fast and everything changed. And then in the chorus, they're talking about the past still, but like talking about how like they grew up on MTV and more so references like the hip hop stuff. And by the second verse comes around, they're talking about punk rock. So that's another reason why this song, like I chose this song too, because I feel like I love pop punk just as much as I love hip hop. Like as I was buying Good Charlotte records, I was still buying like Dr. Dre and like Eminem CDs and stuff. Like that was totally my introduction, and I relate to them in a lot of ways with that. So that's another reason I chose this song, actually.
Yeah. I think it's good that you point out that the second verse talks a lot about punk rock, because that also, I mean, from day one has been a question of like, where does Good Charlotte fit into that? Are they punk rock? Well, like, even the first record was very pop.
Yeah.
But also at that same time, Benji was like worshiping Sid Vicious and calling himself Kid Vicious, like.
I love that.
But also they had Waldorf Worldwide, which was like a whole lot of rapping. So like there's a whole lot of that. Like, where do they fit? I feel like part of my Good Charlotte education needs to be just honestly listening to more hip hop and the hip hop stuff that's influenced them. Because I really haven't ever, and I really feel like I need to just like really explore all of that. I did want to point out, I did discover in my research for this that gin and juice is not just a drink; it is also a Snoop Dogg song.
Yeah. Great song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Regarding the hip hop references in this song, Gigwise did an interview where Benji basically was talking about their love of hip hop and rap. And there was like a video up, but the video's been taken down. But there is, I'll read a quote from their article, which they said that, to Gigwise, Madden is a hip hop fan who likes listening to NPR, is a fan of Kendrick Lamar and Future, and is someone who doesn't want to be considered one of those old guys frowning on the music of today. Using Good Charlotte's recent single 40-Ounce Dream as a starting point, Benji talks about why he name-checked Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, and Eazy-E in this song, whether or not Riddy was still relevant, digging for Bone Thugs and Harmony Records because of their affiliation with Eazy-E, which rappers he's listening to of today's generation, the difference between the trap music of today and the trap music of 15 years ago, and whether or not he likes rappers that sing. He also shares his opinion on the NWA biopic Straight Outta Compton and whether Good Charlotte will ever do a film. Brief side note, I wish I could see that video, if nothing else, because I want to know, would Good Charlotte ever do a film? That I so desperately want a Good Charlotte movie in my life.
I agree. I saw the what's the one where they have a lot of footage in Japan? What's that one
Future
called?
Generation.
Yeah, that one's so good. I feel like that one has a great like insight into like the inner workings of the band, and like I'm like, I love it's the stuff like you really want to see, like, oh, do they have issues? Like, and you see them like arguing backstage, like, oh, that, like, they played a show and like, oh, that show was horrible, like we sucked that night, blah blah blah, like,
right.
that was really cool to see in that. But I would love to see more of that, and I feel like there needs to be. I think there will be at some point.
A biopic, yeah.
Like, yeah, that'd be so cool.
I'm campaigning, not to totally go down this road, but I am campaigning to hire myself as either script writer or some kind of producer on that project.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think in regards to just that Gigwise interview, I like that they mentioned that Benji doesn't want to be considered one of those old guys frowning on the music of today. Because I think if you take 40 Ounce Dream super literally, it could kind of be taken as, oh, they're frowning on the rappers who are singing and the rockers who are DJing. Like if you take it super literally.
Yeah, if you take it literal, but I think, yeah, it's supposed to be tongue in cheek. It's not supposed to be taken serious. You can see it in the video. Like, we'll get to that, I'm sure. But yeah, it's supposed to be fun, and that's what they're going for. They're totally taking the whole Blink-182 vibe and going with that, and yeah, I think it's just supposed to be a fun song. I don't think it's supposed to be taken literally at all. But there are, like I said, like there are definitely like somewhat deeper lyrics where it's like, oh my god, they think they're like has-beens in a way.
Yeah. That which the someone on Genius in their like interpretation said that the nightmare they mentioned in the first verse is that they are irrelevant.
Wow.
That was one person's, and I was like, ooh, harsh, but like maybe that is like me. I guess that kind of is, right? Like the nightmare is kind of like, oh, the world has changed and we don't fit anymore.
Yeah, it's insane because a lot of people have that opinion, which I don't like. Where it's like, when you mention a band, doesn't even need to be Good Charlotte, but like any band and they're like, oh, they still make music. It's like, yeah, they still make music. You just Spotify, and you'll see they put out a song last month or whatever.
Right.
Right.
Well, I want to talk about Benji's behind the track. I love, and I wish they would do this for every album, but Benji did like behind the track videos for every song on this record. And he was basically saying that this is some classic GC sarcasm. And he said, we kind of woke up in 2016 and amidst the whole wave of music that's happening now, wondering where does Good Charlotte fit in 2016. It was kind of a nice sentiment for us and our fans. It was definitely, for me, one of the funnest songs to write. And he talked about it as kind of dad jokes, like, I guess kind of realizing they're older. I don't think Benji was a dad yet at that time, but Joel was. I think Billy and Paul were. And realizing, oh yeah, we're kind of old guys now.
Yeah.
Joel had, I feel like Joel's what Joel said. So there was an interview with Upset Magazine, and Upset Magazine, I can't praise them enough because they had this Youth Authority interview, and they also had a really good interview with the band around Generation RX that I've referenced both of those multiple times. And Joel said that 40 Ounce Dream isn't a serious attack on anyone. It's funny. We've been gone for a long time, and it's like we wake up and we're like, who am I in 2016? Where do I even fit in? It kind of makes fun of ourselves, kind of makes fun of everyone else. And it's laughing at everything. Going like, yeah, it's kind of effed up and different, but there is some good stuff and some not so good stuff. They ask if Youth Authority is a rock or pop record, and Joel says 40 Ounce Dream is kind of an exception because it's a very pop song, and always my least favorite songs on our records are the ones that become singles.
Wow.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah.
They put it out as a single, and it didn't really seem to like hit as hard as I personally think it should have. But I did look at some YouTube videos of them playing it live, and there's not much of a reaction. Maybe it's because it was so fresh. Some of the videos I saw, but
fresh, and also I feel like it's just not a high, like as high energy as like Life Changes, for example, or like Makeshift Love is a little more high energy.
Totally.
Just it's like Makeshift Love is more of a vibe, and like they would play The Outfield from this album pretty often, and that is such a high energy song, not a single, but just a very high energy song, right?
Yeah, I think in 2016, I put a little note here, like I wanted to say, like I think in 2016 and even now, it's like not it's not too strange to have like an interest in like different styles of music. Like the same kids
Right.
in the like 1975 could have the Story So Far records. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
people just like music. It's not like it was where, you know, early 2000s where.
Oh my God, you could not be like a Good Charlotte fan and a Snoop Dogg fan. You definitely like no.
Yeah, definitely not. Or at least like you leaned more towards that a certain style or genre.
Yeah.
But like now it's kind of like a mix of everything. Like the hip hop kids are wearing skinny jeans now and you know, painting their nails and dyeing their hair.
I know, like e-boy culture. E-boy style is so interesting because it's like a lot of them, they'll listen to like a lot of hip hop and trap, but the style is like what is like the type of boys that I crushed on when I was 15, right? Like wearing like ripped black skinny jeans, hair in their face and painted nails. Do you have any memories or stories that you want to share about 40 Ounce Dream?
Let's see. I think it just takes me back to like hearing like Girls and Boys for the first time, and like it's not exactly the same song. They're not singing about the same like thing at all, but just like how the song is constructed, where it's like super chill in the verses, and then they have a really giant chorus with like huge guitars, and yeah, I think it's just interesting how it's only been played at a handful of shows.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. I mean, I think for a good reason though. Like when they play live, I think the fans expect to hear a lot of Young and Hopeless, and like they play a good amount of their hits. And I did look at their set list from like 2018, and I noticed they only played like 16 songs, and that seems kind of short to me. I feel like a lot of bands play like sometimes 23 to 24 songs, but I think it's just like their strategy to keep the kids coming back. They want to hear more. But
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure that's part of it.
Yeah, but
I wonder, like, you know, as we talk about like this song being played live, I would be really curious to like hear an acoustic of this.
Yeah, I don't know if it would work.
I mean, I think it could. I think they could whip this out at an acoustic session, and that could be a fun thing. Like whether it was like an acoustic meet and greet or like an acoustic live stream or like an in-store when the record comes out kind of thing. You know, I mean, the record is long out, but I don't know. I think it could work, and I think like the tempo of this song, I think could potentially suit an acoustic performance maybe better than like in their proper full band set.
Interesting. I mean, it does have an acoustic guitar in it. I think Benji does bust out the acoustic guitar live.
Exactly.
So yeah, maybe you're right.
Exactly.
Awesome to hear. I would love to hear it in general. I've never heard it, so.
I want to talk about other songs, other Good Charlotte songs a track relates to, and like how it kind of fits in their discography. And I think Girls and Boys was a great one you mentioned. I definitely, you know, just with the idea of commentary, right? And kind of commenting and talking about the people around them. I have to mention, and hear me out, because maybe this is controversial. Moving on from The Young and the Hopeless. In that song, they say, I wonder if I will survive to live to see 25, right?
Yeah.
And now they're saying all the punk rockers are over 40. So in Moving On, they were kind of like, there was almost like I'm just gonna like die young. Like, right?
Totally punk.
right. Like, I mean, that song is definitely like an uplifting song, and that they're like, well, no, F that. I'm not going to die young. I'm going to move on and everything. But like that wondering if they will even live to grow up. And now they're like, well, shit, everyone around us is old. Are we old?
Right. I think it's just different now too. I think they nailed it to the point where like people could still enjoy the song. I mean, like essentially they're talking about like emo night culture in a lot of ways, like with the emos now like DJing and yeah, it's just a totally different thing. But I don't know. I love the record. The record is, I think it's awesome.
And no shame on emo night. I think I think they've even DJ'd at emo night. Like I know I'm sure they've gone.
Absolutely, I'm pretty sure. Benji's did.
I've only been to one emo night, and it was fun, but it's not the same. It's not the same as going to a show.
Oh, definitely not.
But it was fun.
It's a reason to get with your friends and scream the songs of your youth.
I would rather go to emo night than go to like a non-emo night at like a club.
Yeah, no, I agree.
You know what I mean?
I agree. The bar scene sucks.
Yeah, but I see it, and a lot of people. I feel like emo night almost might have to get like its own episode, but I should get like one of their founders on here. But I guess the fear is like, are people going to emo night instead of checking out some new band? We could go down a whole rabbit hole of that, but
I think it's I don't know. It's just let me think about that. I don't know. It's just different how people discover music, and I think hopefully once this pandemic is over, people can really appreciate local shows more. I know I think even as a person in a band that goes to local shows, I think I'm definitely going to try to go to more. I miss shows so much where I'm like, I took that for granted where I could go to a show on a Wednesday night to see my buddy's band. You know what I mean? Like you could just go anytime, and now it's like when that's taken away, it's like you took it for granted, and now it's like there's nothing more I would want to do than go to a local show or a concert in general.
Oh my God, I know. And now I'm like, it's like I moved to Philly in the pandemic, and I used to come to Philly all the time. Almost always when I was coming down here, it was for concerts. Yeah. And so it's like, it's kind of weird being here and not going to concerts.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I live here now.
It's a bummer.
Well, I want to talk about the lyric video and the music video for this song. So we'll talk about the lyric video first. Okay. So it was directed by Josh Madden, the twins' older brother. And per Rolling Stone, he drew inspiration from artist and writer Shea Serrano's pop culture-friendly coloring book for adults. He said, "I'm a big fan of Bun B's rap coloring activity book, and when the guys played me this song, it was the first thing I thought about. I started drawing right away." So it's a picture book, right?
Yeah. Very,
very clever setup, I think.
Yeah, it's more than just words going by, and there's a lot more to look at throughout the video. Really cool.
Yeah. One that I have to mention, well, two that I want to mention. So the drawings of the band are great. There's one that's the twins when they say it's not 2003, and it's like Benji with like the giant Liberty spikes, I think.
Yeah.
So good, so iconic. Versus I think by the time this album was coming out, Benji had like no hair, like he had the head tattoo and everything. Mm-hmm. But I really want to talk about in the second verse when they say now all the punk rockers are over 40. There's a guy standing in front of the Fat Records logo. So, like, is that Fat Mike? Are they specifically calling out Fat Mike?
Yeah, that's definitely Fat Mike. I'm a big NoFX fan. Yeah.
Like, are they specifically calling out Fat Mike in the lyric?
They could have easily put Tim from Rancid, or I don't know, somebody from that.
How old is Fat Mike? So Fat Mike was born in 1967. So he is now 54 years old. In 2016, he would have been like late 40s, right? He would have been like 49 years old or so.
Yeah.
So he was definitely over 40.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun lyric video.
Because they're big. I know they're big NoFX guys. Like in the Girls and Boys video, Benji's wearing a NoFX t-shirt, and that was it has the album cover of 45 or 46 songs that weren't good enough to go on our other albums. That's the name of the
So
title.
good. So good.
Yeah. And that was actually the first NoFX record I ever bought. So, like, being 12 and seeing Good Charlotte, like, rep NoFX too, I was like, oh my God, this is
They're
so
real
cool.
punk. Yeah.
Yeah, punk.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the music video for this song.
Okay.
So it premiered in June of 2016 on Hot Topics website, which is so appropriate. It's so good. It makes me so happy. It's like a level of commentary. Like, to premiere this video on Hot Topics website is just like such a level of commentary that like I adore so much. So it was inspired, I guess it was kind of inspired or a ripoff of the show The Last Man on Earth. Basically, Good Charlotte is the last band on Earth. There is an apocalypse and nobody is left except the band. They're like in the desert.
Yeah. I think it's so funny how the intro like has like script rolling down, like kind of like a Star Wars kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
And saying like they've been lost or something like that since 2011, which is like at the time, like, I don't know, like for me, even though like they were gone for a long time, that I was still like listening to them on a constant
Right.
basis. I didn't even think about them being gone that long. I was like, wow, that's crazy. They've been gone so long, and it's been that long. I didn't realize like so much time passed by. Maybe it was just like that time in my life where I was just like,
Yeah.
time was just flying by, and I was like listening to other music too, but I still listened to Good Charlotte. And yeah, it's just crazy to think about. But yeah, what a great video.
It's a great video. I have to say, Benji's getup, he has this like floppy hat and these like ridiculous round white sunglasses is very good.
Yeah.
Dean is just like full on sunbathing, and Joel is driving the RV. And I don't know if I would want to be like, as much as it looks like a good time, I don't know if I would want to be a passenger. I just something about me, it just like looks at the whole setup and it's like, that is not safe. It looks very fun.
Well, there's no other cars on the road because they're the last band on Earth.
True. Good point. So a specific reference, I guess, to Last Man on Earth. In Last Man on Earth, I guess there was a point where there was like a margarita pool. So when they are filling up the kiddie pool by like dumping the 40s in, that is a reference to that, I guess.
Yeah.
I do wonder if it was actually alcohol they were dumping or if it was like apple juice or something. Because that could get real expensive depending on what they use. That could get real expensive real quick.
Yeah. I mean, they're Good Charlotte. I'm pretty sure they have a.
True. I'm sure they have the money.
Yeah, they had a large budget for the video, and the video looks great. And even Makeshift Love, like that video was rad too. Like so many like graphics and yeah, I love what's in front of Joel as he's driving the car. It's like it was basketball with like smiley faces or like some kind of
it's
sports.
Yeah, there's like a lot of those because there's a whole scene where they're like playing cards with like different balls that have like wigs on and stuff.
Yeah, like I watched the video before like a couple times.
Same, yeah.
Or just to remind myself because it's been a little while, but like, yeah, there's a lot of like eye candy throughout the whole video that you kind of miss if you don't, if you don't pay attention.
Yeah. One scene I have to mention is that they kind of ransack a convenience store, just taking snacks and everything.
Yeah.
So I have to ask you, Dave, if you were to like just, you're the last person on Earth, you run into a convenience store and you're like in the middle of the desert, what are you taking first?
Oh, okay. This is going to sound so basic, but I think Flamin' Hots. Is that basic? Basic?
That's a good choice, though. That's a good choice. I was going to say Takis would be one of mine, that's what I always tell people who are like, well, I want to go vegan, but I like Flamin' Hot Cheetos. I tell them to get Takis because they're kind of similar. Yeah, that's a good one.
And a Dr. Pepper. I'm a big Dr. Pepper
Okay.
guy too.
I would say Gatorade,
Okay.
because
Stay
you're in
high.
the desert. You got to stay hydrated. Yeah.
Need those electrolytes.
Yeah. Probably some Mountain Dew. And I would also take, have you ever seen like those bags of like flavored cashews? They're
No.
like, okay, so they have them at Wawa a lot. Wawa will have these like, obviously there's no desert in Wawa country, because the Wawa country is like Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and parts of Florida.
I've heard
But
about it. I've never been.
yeah, they have these bags of cashews, and I've seen them other places too, but they're like pomegranate vanilla cashews. And I'll see like sriracha cashews or things like that. I don't know, but cashews are just very expensive. But I love them so much. Like, they're so good. They're the best nut.
Awesome.
I just don't buy them that often because they're kind of expensive. So if I was just like ran to a convenience store, I would take like every kind of cashews.
Yeah. No, I would too.
Oh,
I would just to try them.
Oreos too. I would take, I love Oreos. That's a classic.
Oh yeah. Have you tried the Lady Gaga ones?
No, have you?
Yeah, I actually got them as a gift recently, and they're
how were they?
They're pretty much kind of like I guess the closest thing I would say is they're just kind of like vanilla Oreos.
Right. Okay.
They look cool.
Yeah,
and
they look cool.
Cool collector's item.
I know.
Yeah.
I do want to try them.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about some reviews of this song. Consequence of Sound gave the album a C-. And they said 40-ounce Dream is the sonic equivalent of being hit over the head with a plastic toy cassette player.
Oh my god.
That's kind of harsh.
That's an interesting look on that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unfortunate. Like, I feel like, but here's the thing. I feel like they are not like a media critic band.
No, they never have been.
They never like reviews. They always get made fun of because they're like they just have a different take on punk rock, and they fall between like punk rock and like Green Day and Blink pop punk, but you hear like hip hop and No Effects and the Rancid, but that's what makes them unique at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And awesome. But yeah.
Dead Press gave the album a 6 out of 10, and they said that 40-ounce Dream is basically a ripoff of Bowling for Soup's 1985, which in turn was originally by SR71, but instead of a loving tribute to the glory days of the 80s, this is a whinge fest about how it's not 2003. I don't know. So like a couple other reviews and a bunch of commenters mentioned the 1985 comparison. So I want to I guess we got to talk about that. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that was like an intentional kind of rip-off? Like, do you think they were trying to do the same thing?
I see it in the sense that like, well, first of all, I'm a big fan of Bowling for Soup too. Like, I love that song. I love that.
Sure. Yeah, me too.
Bowling for Soup is like the kings of dropping names in their songs and having a ton of like movie references. And that's exactly what Good Charlotte did with this song. They just have a ton of references with the Snoop Dogg and Eazy-E and just name dropping all those artists. And I think that's what he's talking about when he's saying ripping off Bowling for Soup with the pop culture references and such. Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely a lot of pop culture references, but I guess the kind of difference is like 1985, like despite both being nostalgic songs, 1985 is so like, this is about a girl that's preoccupied with 1985 versus, I mean, there's definitely similarities, right? Because the girl is preoccupied with 1985 because that was like her heyday. She was like, oh, I was young and hot then, right? Yeah. And they are kind of like, wow, in 2003, we were like so famous and successful. Yeah. So I do see the similarity, although I feel like they're different enough songs, and I don't think Bowling for Soup or SR71 invented the concept of nostalgia.
No, why not?
Music Times had a nice review. They said, in a nice move of familiarity for Good Charlotte fans, Joel Madden's voice has remained unchanged from time, and a little introduction of auto-tune technology also brings in the more poppy side of the band's pop-punk genre. And despite not being the sort of hard punk rockers that these lyrics seem to idealize, Good Charlotte doesn't seem to be taking the song's rockist, hardcore rap-loving message too seriously. Like some of the band's earliest, biggest hits, Lifestyles, Girls and Boys, this track is meant to be listened to with a wink. Exactly.
Yep. Nailed it.
Yeah. New Noise magazine said that tracks like 40 Ounce Dream are just about perfect and contagious as hell. Adobe did like a staff roundtable where they like all of their staff are just talking about what they think of the song. Past Generation GC guest. So, Dave, you haven't heard this yet because it hasn't gone up yet, but it will be up by the time this episode is up.
Okay, right
past Generation GC guest Mike Fishkin, who hosts Gone Fishkin, said, "Song is catchy AF. I took it as a song that is meant to be fun. In my opinion, the song isn't meant to be taken like Hold On or most of their others, but it's a cool song to sing along to." Alex Bear said, "Had this on repeat since it premiered. They might recognize it ain't 2003 anymore, but they still know how to write hooks better than any pop artist out there." The last review that I want to read is from Exclaim, who said, "Much to Billie Joe Armstrong's dismay, stadium-sized pop punk is as big as ever in 2016. It's only getting stronger too, thanks to another mall punk masterpiece from Good Charlotte." Lyrically, this song sees Joel Madden having an existential crisis of sorts. Looking at the world around him, he's unaware of how it got to be so strange. Time is a cruel mistress, and it's forcing Joel to come to terms with his mortality. Yeah, pretty much.
I'd be interested to see if some of these people reviewing the song watch the video, because sometimes I feel like you have a different take on the song when you have a visual. So
yeah,
it's cool to see some positive reviews in there, though.
Especially this music video being such a goofy one.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. They're from the intro itself when they're like jumping up and down, like, "Yeah, we're the last band on Earth. Yeah, this is amazing," and they're like high fiving. That alone, if you don't like smile at that, you don't have a soul, in my opinion.
Well, let's read some comments on the lyric video. Michael McCurdy said that the song basically sums up what I think about every day. This song is epic. Lily Maria says the lyrics are so true. I'm always be listening to my generation of punk because that was proper punk. Michael Margano said, "I see the references to Blink-182. Tom's been putting out novels and stuff like that. That's why the song said reading stories." I always took the reading stories line to be like all the punk rockers are reading stories, like bedtime stories to their kid. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I did too. Like, that's a reference just to like to having children, and even the line about the sports line, teaching.
Yeah,
what is
coaching Little League. Yeah.
Yeah.
Coaching Little League and reading stories. Yeah. We'll read some comments on the music video. Pigeons 101 said all the punk rockers are over 40 with a bunch of like sobbing emojis. I'm having a hard time accepting that. Fair. Mark Hamburg says, "What's with the hate? These guys were awesome back then. Haters must be too young to understand."
Haters must be too young to understand. Okay.
Yeah. Daniel Maydall said, "I like the message of the song. It's all too true. Sad face." So there we go.
It seems to mirror like the YouTube comments and like the actual like the stuff in the media seem to kind of like mirror each other. I feel like there's some
definitely
totally get it, and there's some people that are just hating, and they probably always hated Good Charlotte, so it doesn't even matter. Like whatever.
Exactly. Well, and if you always like hated Good Charlotte because you didn't get the kind of level of like humor and sarcasm in their music, you're definitely not going to like this song. You're going to think this song is ridiculous.
Right. and at this point in their career, it's kind of interesting to see like in some people's eyes, they are true punk. You know, it just depends on like when you were born and
what else you grew up listening to.
Yeah, what else? Yeah, because some people, will look at like think those are like really like heavy guitars, and when you listen to like Machine Gun Kelly, that's considered pop punk now too, but it's not as like punk, if you will, as like Simple Plan and like Good Charlotte and stuff like that. It's more leaning towards like the pop and hip side. So, yeah.
My friend Jesse Lee, he is a publicist for High Road Publicity, and I knew him from his former band, One Day's Notice in Ohio, and like he reps Mascots. I think that's the only one of his clients. I might have had some of his other artists, but he reps Mascots who came to talk about Festival Song. But he's also like a big TikToker, and he kind of coined this term new punk, NU punk, for like the MGK and the Mod Sun kind of stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I like that a lot. And I really hope that catches on.
I like it. I like some of those artists too. I gotta say, I do like Mod Sun, and I think
Mod Sun Record's really good.
Yeah, it's so good. I mean, there's even it's not out yet, but there's going to be a Mest Mod Sun remix coming out, so that'll be interesting. I think that's a really cool
wow.
generation wise, like for the new kids.
Yeah,
Mod Sun, that might be their first time hearing Mest, so that should be
wow.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting, and I think more collabs like that will happen. Like Blink-182 is working with Lil Uzi Vert on their new record, so. Music is changing, whether you like it or not. Like people, there's going to be a new audience, and a whole new generation in the next few years. So,
absolutely,
yeah.
Well, I feel like that kind of leads us into some of our closing questions. So, how has 40 Ounce Dream held up for you over time?
Well, if I'm being 100% honest, this record is definitely as far as like new Good Charlotte goes, it's definitely my go-to as a whole. So, and that's as far as like where it ranks. I'd say it's like the top. What's one of the top 3 songs on the record as far as like how many times I've listened to it, and I think it still definitely still holds up. I think it's still is just as good. Generation RX. I love the record. But I definitely lean more towards like the major key kind of poppier stuff.
Sure.
So I like that style. But basically I just want to hear it live. I have I like going into like how they are today compared to who they were. I feel like they're the same dudes, and I totally respect that. I think that's why most of their fans, if you liked Good Charlotte and you got it back in the day, they you're still gonna love them.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. I don't think there's much to this song. I feel like it's just supposed to be like a fun listen, even though there's even deeper tracks on the record like Life Can't Get Much Better and songs like that. Yeah.
Well, Dave, what has Good Charlotte meant to you over the years, and how has that changed?
Let's see. I don't know. I think it just goes to show like where they are in their career. Like they've never had like big egos, and I think they're like super like. I've only met Dean, but even him, like he had like the utmost respect for me. I was one time I met him at the Metro, and I was wearing a Mest shirt, and he came up to me. He actually came up to me and he said, "Dude, I know Tony. I've actually just started. I recorded drums for him for his side project." I'm like, and I don't think I'll ever stop listening to this band. I think they're going to be one of those bands that like I like a lifetime band for me, and especially since I like followed them since I was a kid. Like I still love them today, and I can't wait to see them live again. Yeah.
Well, do you have any last words about 40 Ounce Dream, about Good Charlotte, about Summer Curse, or about yourself?
Well, to anybody listening, just definitely go watch the video if you haven't. Definitely going to remind you why you love Good Charlotte, or how you fell in love with Good Charlotte to be in the first place. I think for this record in general, like, it was kind of like a good, a really strong like comeback. This is a comeback record, because I think it showcased like everything, like why you fell in love with Good Charlotte in the first place, as far as like the young and the hopeless.
Perfect way of putting it. Yeah.
So, yeah, I've actually, I want to mention too, like I've exchanged messages with Benji Madden on Instagram. He actually heard my band, and it wasn't just like, oh, I heard your band. Like, it was, you could tell it wasn't fake. You could tell he really listened to the song, and he said, send me more material. So I'll definitely keep in touch with him, and hopefully
love that
a working relationship will happen out of that. So I actually messaged,
fingers crossed.
Yeah, I messaged him at like 3:00 in the morning. This is like just when I released, this is back a couple years ago. I just released the song, and I messaged just like anybody, like, well, anybody from the industry that like might be interested in the style. Like, I messaged everybody under the sun, Travis Barker, guys from Simple Plan. You just never know who you're gonna like get a message from, and he's like the only person that got back to me. And I was so stoked. This is like 3 a.m. Like, oh my god, we actually exchanged a few messages. He was really stoked on the fact that I knew of his company, Madden, with Joel.
Course, yeah.
And because not many people know that they have so many projects outside of Good Charlotte, and I think it's
really do.
They're really busy dudes. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Most recently, they just started Veeps. And it just bought out by Live Nation, which is crazy. That's like, I think they sold it for $2 million, I think. And that was a great source of income for bands. And there was like right place, right time. They started the right platform, and there's tons of like concerts, like as far as like live streams goes. That's a great source of income for bands. And
oh my god, yeah,
they're doing a cool thing. And the clothing companies, like, Billy has the artwork. Yeah, they're awesome at what they do.
They definitely are. Well, Dave, this has been so awesome, so fantastic, and I just I love hearing about just your own experiences in music for so long, and I'm totally with you on Good Charlotte being like a lifetime band. Well, as we wrap up, so I have a Generation GC and Friends Spotify playlist. So definitely going to put, obviously, this song. Got to put Bowling for Soup 1985. I'll have to put some Mest on there. But I would just also love from you just a recommendation, anything you're listening to lately that's not Good Charlotte or your own band. Okay,
let's see. I think everyone should check out this band called Radical Radical. Okay. It's a new project from the singer from Homegrown. Homegrown is like early 2000s pop punk band. They definitely played with Good Charlotte back in the day. I do remember. I definitely remember seeing their guitar player rocking, like, this is early 2000s like fashion wear, where everyone wore their baseball cap to the side. I remember seeing him wearing a baseball cap.
Sick.
And holy crap, they're totally like in it with Good Charlotte. And so Radical Radical, the song is called Misfit Toys. It's a new band, so you might have to type in Radical Radical Misfits for it to come up on Spotify, but it's definitely up already. It's like really brand new. I don't think a lot of people know about it yet, but I follow the singer from Homegrown on Instagram, and he's been trying to promote it, get the word out. So anybody that was a Homegrown fan or a fan of like pop punk, like the style, like if you like Blink and Good Charlotte, a Simple Plan, you'll definitely love this band.
Amazing. Oh, I'm so excited to check that out.
Yeah, check it out for sure.
Dave, thank you so much for coming on the show. Where can people keep up with you and your music?
You can follow me at Dave Gomez Official, and my band is called Summer Curse, and I think all the handles are at Summer Curse Band.
Perfect.
And, I have the link on my Instagram, but Dave Gomez Official, follow me on Instagram and all that good stuff.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Dave, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for just having such a great conversation about 40 Ounce Dream. I felt like we got to be nostalgic and sentimental, but also very talk about, the humor, which was a lot of fun.
Heck yeah.
Listeners, thank you for tuning in. Last week on our last regular episode, we talked about Last Night from Cardiology. A few days ago, we had a bonus episode where I shared the story of how I got to interview Billy Martin. And next week on our next regular episode, again, we'll be talking about a song from Generation RX. My name's Molly Hudelson. I've been your host, and you can follow Generation GC at Generation GC Pod, POD, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can also follow me, Molly, at M Hudelson, MHUDELSON, on Twitter and Instagram. And please join the Generation GC fam group on Facebook. We hang out, we talk, we'll share memes and things like that. And please make sure to subscribe to the show or follow it on your preferred podcast provider and rate, review on Apple Podcasts. Thank you for tuning in.